Hi, I'm Jayziane Gautier. I train and show reining horses, and in my discipline, the performance of our horse is so important. Therefore, we need to use the highest quality supplement that we can find. This is why I choose XL EQ. It does so much for my horses from many points. Not only it helps their hair coat, but it also helped to have better joints. It reduced the inflammation, also helped the recovery of the muscle after a hard workout, and also help into their digestive system. So it's definitely an overall great product, and I would recommend for your horses. So get on XLEQ. Hi, my name is Jayziane Gautier. Welcome to my DVD about ranch riding. I'm so excited about being able to do a DVD about this discipline for many reasons. But one, ranch riding has been a big part of my life this past year. I've had the chance to qualify and compete a horse at the World Show, at the AQHA World Show in 2015, and it's just been an amazing growing experience. And I feel like I wanted to share what I have learned with everyone, because this big growing discipline, a lot of people have a lot of question about what are they looking for and what do they want to see and what type of horses can do this discipline. So this DVD is to really answer as much question as everybody have about this new discipline, and hopefully get you guys to step in and try it out for yourself. What are we looking for a great ranch horse? We're looking for a horse that has a great disposition, easy to work with, happy to work, hears his up and forward, and definitely easy to guide. Secondly, what are we looking as far as conformation? We want a horse that has a very level top line. His neck comes out of his wither nice and even, or slightly higher than his wither. A horse with a head a little bit too low to the ground will not showcase what a working horse should be. Therefore, if you were in a field or herding cattle, your horse will not have his head to the ground. He's going to be aware of his surrounding. His head will be slightly higher than his wither. His ears will be up and looking around. So that's something that you have to keep in mind if you're looking to purchase a ranch horse, or if you're looking to evaluate if your horse would be a good horse to show in that discipline. Another really big aspect of the ranch riding horse, again, you're thinking of a working horse. So when I'm thinking of a working horse, I want a horse that's powerful. I want a horse that's gaining a lot of ground, not even at the walk, trot, but also at the lope. So there's a horse that is powerful, pushing from behind, has really nice fluid movement, and also do all that with a pleasing attitude. A horse that guides easily and is happy to do his job will definitely excel in this discipline. Ranch riding has been the fastest growing discipline AQHA have seen. I really recommend that you log on to aqha.com and read the regulation and the rules. I will do my best to cover as many specifications as possible and answer some of your questions you may have. Now enjoy the DVD. So what I'd like to talk to you about is that I do have a little trick that I'm using to help teach my student to have a hand that's a little bit more confined right in front of the horn, and always maneuvering on top of my horse's shoulder or their horse's shoulder. Sometimes you can see different level of rider using their hand and coming really low below the withers, and what that causes, if I use my hand and I go below the withers, most of the time my horse's nose will go to the outside and he will drop that shoulder. So to help that habit is I created a little imaginary box that's right in front of my horn and right on top of the shoulder. So you have to imagine that your hand is attached to your horse's shoulder. So when you maneuver him around, you're always picking up your hand and moving to the direction you want to go. So I'm picking up the shoulder, moving to the right, picking up the shoulder, moving to the left. Always try to stay in that box that is about 5 inches by 5 inches. Again, if you pick up and turn, you don't want your hand to go all the way up here, because again, the goal is that your horse looks like he's guiding very easily and freely. So if you're pulling all the way here, first, you're probably going to pull his face and he's going to look like he has some resistance, and second, it doesn't look good. While you can do the same and achieve the same result by staying in that box by just lifting and moving his shoulder. And when you lift, you move his shoulder to the right. You also move your body to the right. And really, really, be in sync with your horse and have some body control from him and from you. So with that said, with that box, another thing that I use as a guideline is this is where my hand's going to be for my walk, my slow trot, and my slow lope. My hand's going to be right in the center of that box, right on top of his shoulders or his withers, and that's where I'm going to control my horse. Now, if I need to turn a little bit more to the right, I'm not going to turn like this. I'm going to lift his shoulder and move my hand to the right. Same thing to the left. I'm going to lift his shoulder and move it to the left. And again, if you really remember that box trick, it's going to really remember not to throw your hand down, and you're actually going to help your horse execute each maneuver a little bit easier and more balanced, which is what we're looking for. If you have a balanced horse, you're going to have a horse that looks like he's doing everything a little bit more free and a little bit easier with less resistance. And it's the key. Resistance is the key word. If your horse looks like he's working and he's in tune with you and you guys are doing all your maneuver and it really looks like you guys are a great team, then that's where you can get a lot of points. Now, if you pick up your horse and your horse look like he has some resistance in the face, or he's not moving his shoulder when you're moving your hand, then that's where you can lose some points and your maneuver doesn't look as freely. Okay, so now we talked about where the hand needs to be for the walk, slow trot, and slow lope, right in the center of my box, in my 5-inch by 5-inch box. Now, my hand needs to come up a little bit more forward when I do my fast speed as my extended trot and my extended lope. For my extended trot, if you're going to be in the standing position, your standing position, you're going to just take your legs off your horse a few inches on each side, put pressure in the ball of your foot, and your hand's going to come up just in the middle of his ears, and you're going to look straight forward in the direction you want to send your horse. Now, if your hand is all the way low in his wither, first, I don't have any contact in his mouth, which I'm not in control of his shoulder, and if your hand is a little bit more elevated, you also give it the appearance that you're going a little faster. So this is a nice position. If you're going to do a standard trot, you stand up in your stirrup, your legs gets off your horse a little bit. I personally like to squeeze my knee to hold myself. So my legs comes out, my knees squeeze a little bit on each side of my saddle, and I keep my hand right in the center of his ears. Now if I want to turn right, my box still work there. My box is right here. Now I'm bringing my box right here. So if I want to turn right when I'm in an extended position, again, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to lift and turn. Lift and turn to the left. So this is where my hand needs to be for the extended trot if I'm standing in the saddle. Now if I'm posting, my hand can be a little bit more in between the saddle horn and his ears, because it's kind of hard to post if your hand is all the way to the ears. So if I'd be posting, my hand would be right in the center of his neck, and I'd be right here in that position. Again, in ranch riding, it's totally acceptable to grab the horn. If you need the horn to post or you need the horn to stand up, it actually gives it a little extra look, and it's totally acceptable if you need to do that. So what I'm going to talk about is the walk. We think walking needs to be pretty simple, right? But there's different degree of walking. If your horse is just walking really relaxed with his head low to the ground and his ears not alert, you're not going to get as much credit if a horse is walking with a certain pace, looking up. Like this horse right here, his ears are alert, his head is a little bit higher than his wither, or his head could be nice and level. That's no problem at all. But you want a horse that is walking with a certain speed and like he's gaining some ground and actually going somewhere. So I'm going to give you 2 different walks. The first one will be nice and easy, where I'm not going to help him. I'm just going to let him walk the own speed he wants, looking straight forward. And then the second example, I'm going to just use a little bit more of my cue in my body to help him walk a little bit stronger. Some of the cues that I use to help him walk a little bit harder and with just a little bit more power is that I'm going to use my seat a little bit with the rhythm of his footsteps. So every time he walks, I'm going to move my seat, trying to help him get a little bit of a stronger, deeper, longer stride. Also, something that I can do is bump my leg a little bit, just again to give him a little bit more momentum. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate 2 different kind of walk, one at his own speed and one that I'm working a little bit for him. Okay, nice straight forward. I'm just going to look straight ahead at me. My hand is a little bit higher. You know, I don't want your hand low on the wither. I want your hand nice high, a few inches off the mane, and looking nice straight ahead. So right now it's a nice slow speed. My horse is relaxed. He's looking around. He's alert. There's nothing wrong with that walk. Now if I want to make it a little bit fancier and try to get a little bit more point on my walk, then I'm going to lift my hand and I'm going to move my seat a little bit. Not till he trot, but I just want him to walk a little faster. I'm going to bump my calf. I might cluck a little bit if I need it. I want him to walk a little bit more with, you know, that he's gaining some ground, and that he's pushing a little harder with each stride. So now he's got a little bit more rhythm in his steps. That, you know, he's really looking like I could be walking around on a ranch, you know, going to get some cattle, nice and relaxed. And he's walking with a nice rhythm. That would be a really nice walk. Whoa. So these are two different walks. There's nothing wrong with one a little bit slower than the other, but again, to try to make it as nice and fancy as possible and try to make it to where you can gain as much point. Again, if your horse has got some rhythm and he's pushing, he's alert, looking forward, and he looks like he's on a mission, I guess, for a better word, you know, that's really what we're looking for as the whole overall look. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the trot. There's two different trot in the ranch riding. You'll have the slow trot and the extended. To start with the slow trot, what we're looking for is a horse, again, that's alert to his surrounding. Hopefully his ears are up. I like to have a nice level neckline. Maybe his head a little bit higher than his withers is also really nice. We want to have a nice pace to the trot. Nothing like a Western riding trot, nothing slow. Your horse, again, has to look like he's on a mission, going somewhere, and it looks like he's gaining some ground on that trot. So I'm going to show you, again, two different trot. One that's going to be a little more natural, where I'm going to be just sitting on him and let him do his natural trot. And the second will be where I'm helping him a little bit with my seat and my leg to hopefully get a little bit more momentum in that trot. So that will help you, you know, get a few tips to how you can help your horse get a better score for that trot. Okay, so the first trot I'm going to do here is going to be a very natural trot where I'm going to let him do what he likes to do without me helping him. So this is a nice pace. His ears are up. He's alert. This is a really nice trot right here. Cool. Now I'm going to give you the same trot, but I'm going to help him a little bit more with my seat and with my leg. Hopefully get a little bit more of a momentum. And I'm also going to collect him just a little bit more. There he has just a little bit more pep in his step. I have a nice little frame in his face. He still has his ear up, and it's a nice controlled trot. Whoa. The extended trot is a big maneuver. This is where you can get a lot of credit. It's a maneuver that you can teach your horse to get better at. He needs to be very strong, pushing from behind, pushing with his hind quarter, and also have a nice elongate stride up front. And I'll show you a few different ways to first teach your horse to have a nice extended trot, but also a few different ways to sit that extended trot. There's people that like to post just to get into the rhythm of the extended trot. There's also people that like to just grab the horn and stand up in the extended, which is a total personal preference. I like to do both. I like to do the pulse trot when I'm teaching my horse to really use his back end to push from behind and really extend his front feet. You know, a lot of people think extended trot is just fast. You really want to get a lot of strength coming from behind. You want him to push and get some strong movement, you know, like, you know, he's really pushing, and again, he's on a mission, you know, and going either to a cattle or, you know, back home, whatever his mission is, but he has to really look strong doing it. So I'm going to give you a few tricks to teach your horse how to push from his hind quarter and be strong, and also a few different ways you can sit that extended trot. I'm going to show you a few different things to do to help your horse get better in the extended trot. I'm going to start post-trotting here, just warming him up. Every time I sit, I squeeze my calf, and when I stand up, I take my legs off my horse. I want my hand slightly elevated on his neck. I don't want my hand on his neck, so I'm not controlling the shoulder. I want to take charge of him. My hand is elevated, and I have just a semi-contact to be able to guide him. So now I'm going to work him a little bit to make sure that he's pushing from behind. So I'm going to grab the inside nose a little bit. So now I put a little bit more pressure and he start loping. It's no problem. But I'm just going to break him down, tell him that he is not allowed to lope when I cluck. So I'm going to go back in my extended trot, grab his nose, and every time I stand up, every time I sit down, I'm going to push with my inside leg and cluck. So what that's going to do is he's going to reach a little bit more forward with the left front. And he's going to be pushing a little bit harder with his right hind. So now I'll leave him alone, go back to my post trot. So now he's really starting to push. Gonna do it again. I really want him to push from behind. I keep his nose to the inside to make sure I can control that shoulder so he doesn't lope off. I'll do it one more time. If he loped off, he made a mistake, no problem. We go back right to it. I told him no, he can't lope off when I cluck. And I leave him alone. And I'll go do the other way as well. I'll sit, change diagonal, keep his nose to the left. Every time I sit, I squeeze my inside leg. He wants to lope, I say no. Get him off my hand a little bit, and I'll go back to it. Really lifting his shoulder right here. Tell him to push with that left hind and extend that right front. See, now he's pushing nice from behind, extended forward. I'm really liking this right here. So what you were able to see on this workout here is that this horse has really a natural movement for the extended trot. It's something that's going to be very, very fancy for him. So I'm going to make sure that I train him and push him as much as I can to get as much point as I need to into that maneuver. For sure, we're still in a transition space where, you know, every time I put some more pressure, he means well and he wants to lope off, which is totally natural. He just needs to learn that when I put a little bit more pressure with either my voice cue or my leg cue or my seat, I just need him to put more intensity in that action, not actually pass to the next level. So that's where he's still just a little bit confused. But again, what he's giving me without me pushing him is totally acceptable. I'm just trying to get a little bit more out of this horse because I know this maneuver is going to be very special on him, and I think, you know, he can be a little bit more sharp and actually really shine in that maneuver. So what I'm going to do here is I let him catch his breath for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and give you another extended trot, but just standing up without posting, and let him do his job and kind of showcase that he can carry me through a long distance, pushing forward, alert with his head a little bit high, and really showcasing that, you know, that's what he can do really, really well. Oh. So that was really nice for him. He had a nice pace. He was alert in between my rein. So I really like that, and I feel there's still room a lot to grow for him, but that's definitely a great start. Okay, so now we're going to talk about lope. There's two different lopes. You have slow lope, which is going to be a little bit more collected, but still need to have a certain pace to it. We don't want, a very slow lope where your horse is, not going anywhere. Again, still keep in mind you're on a ranch. Your horse got to keep some kind of, or gain some kind of ground. And then you have the extended lope where, there's different speed of extended lope. You can do it where you're comfortable, and I'll show you a few different speed with him a little bit later on, so you can compare what kind of level of extended lope that you can achieve. So for the slow lope, my hand's going to be in my box right in front of my horn. And the most important thing, the more you can score on that slow lope, is you want, first of all, your horse to look free, natural, and especially that he's guiding very easily. A ranch horse that don't guide is not going to be a good ranch horse. So that's the most important thing, is that your horse has to look like he's following your hand very easily and there's no resistance. To gain as much point as possible, there's a few little things that you need to think about. You need to have a really nice and soft lope off. If I put my legs and my horse resists to my leg and don't lope off properly, well, this is the first thing the judge think in his mind, and he's not going to have a great image to start scoring you in that lope, even though that lope is perfect. So, your lope off needs to be really nice and free, needs to react to your leg right away and have a soft lope off. And secondly, in that lope off, again, your hand is in your box. You want a little contact on the rein, no droopy reins. Little contact right on top of his shoulder, and keep control of him. If he has a little bit of a collection, that's even better. But I want to have my horse, again, with his neck coming out of his wether, a little higher or level, totally acceptable. If I have a horse that's very curious, like this one here, he's very focused on me, but he's also really curious at what's going on around him, which makes him a great ranch horse. So now I'm going to show you what his lope looked like. He's got a pretty nice smooth lope, and usually a really nice lope off. So I'm going to pick up his shoulder, cue him with my outside leg. Nice soft lope off. His expression is great. His ears are up. He's moving off my hand nicely. See, my hand is in my box right in front of the horn. It's a really nice pace. Now I could hold him a little tighter if I would like to. I'm going to shorten up my raw males. Take a little bit more of a contact. That would be totally acceptable as well. My horse is moving off my rein nice and free. He's not resisting to my bit, and that's what I'm looking for. So this would be just a really nice, smooth lope. He had a nice lope off. He reacted to my leg cue really nicely. He stayed in between my hand. Again, one of his big qualities, he keeps his ears up very often. So that's just a really nice quality to have for the ranch riding. Again, if your horse likes to be a little bit more snug, there's no problem with that. For him, to me, what works best is just to have him snug, but just leave him a little bit room to breathe, to where he's just a little bit more light on my hand. Sometimes if you snug up the rein a little too much, then when you turn, he might resist it a bit, just a little bit more. So again, it's whatever works best for your horse, and make sure that you bring the best out of your horse. Okay, so we know that there's another kind of lope, which is the extended lope. The extended lope has different level. You don't have to run super fast if you're not comfortable. For sure, the more ground that your horse is gaining, the more point you can get. You know, you start getting scored at 0, you can get a +1/2, +1, +1.5. So the more speed your horse gets, but staying in control, is going to be a little bit more rewarding in the end. But I'll show you a few different speed with him, and where you need to pay attention is where my hand is going to be for that extended lope. For sure, you can do two things. First, you can bring your hand a little bit higher up on his neck, and it's kind of show off a little bit more speed, and it might look sometime a little faster than you actually are going. Some people are a little bit more comfortable to stay seated in that extended lope and just move their seat and their hand moving forward with each stride. Again, it's your preference. I personally like to stand up a little bit and bring my hand forward. Makes my horse look a little bit faster and actually gets him a little bit more freer in the shoulder. And then when I'm up here, it helps me also, because most of the time when you have an extended lope, you will have a transition. So if I'm up here, it makes me a little bit more it gives me a little bit more an advantage to sit back and bring my horse back into the transition. We'll talk about transition a little bit later on, but this is why I prefer standing up a little bit in my saddle, hands is forward, and let my horse get the speed that I want. Okay, so I'm a nice slow lope right now. I have control of my horse. I'm going to stand up in my stirrup. Now I'm going to show you the other extended lope, but I'm going to stay seated a little bit more. I'm driving with my seat. Well, so these are two different ways that you can do your extended lope. You can stay seated or stand up if you rather. So now we've seen all the gaits that you will see in the ranch riding: walk, slow trot, extended trot, slow lope, and extended lope. One thing to really retain from this is make sure that you keep a snug rein on your horse. No droop rein. Again, it's a 3-point penalty if you ride your horse on a too loose of a rein. So keep your horse a little bit in control. One thing, if you want to remember to keep your hand in that box in the center of your horse, to keep your hand from doing this number. You want to make it look as easy as possible. And again, just know your horse. If your horse is stronger in the extended trot, then go get as much point as you get in that. If he's a little weaker there, then back off and maybe get a little bit more point in your slow trot or even at your walk. Just find what your horse's strength is and really try to help him achieve that into your class. So we're going to talk about cues. The most important thing is that you need to have a good relationship with your horse, meaning he needs to be in tune with your body and your body language for him to respond to the cue as good as possible. Most important thing, your horse has to be trained to listen to these cues. So you have to pick one specific signal for each cues and reinforce that signal each and every time. I will go over a few different cues that I like to use on my horses. This guy here, he's been riding with me for about a month and a half, and he was not a ranch riding horse in his previous career. So we're still reinforcing these cues. So sometime if he doesn't execute it well, I might stop him and correct him so you can see what I do in my correction. And then I'll ask him again and see if I can reinforce him and I's communication together for each of the cues. So I'm going to start first from the slow trot to the walk. I use a lot of verbal cues for my ranch riding. I feel like if my tone of voice is nice and relaxed, it's also going to transmit in my body language, and it can really help my horse relax down into a slower transition. So I'm going to put him into a slow trot, and I'm going to do a walking transition. So my horse is nice and relaxed, and I'm going to ask to do a walking transition. Walk. Whoa. So what I did